It's early morning, end of November. It's still dark, and I'm watching the moon, who's brightly, though thinning, looking over me. And whenever I wake up and go down, and then look through the big window outside and I see her, I feel so protected. And when she's not there, I'm kind of sad, although I know she's there. And then I think of my mom, how she used to always honor the sun. In the mornings, I remember I was a little child and we lived in a remote village, actually at the outskirts of a remote village. We had no neighbors directly, and there were forests around us and meadows. We had a big garden. And she would open the window and throw out, like with a big scream of life, she would call the sun and say, "Laura, Laura." And I was surprised to see so much life in her, and also why she would call the sun by a name. I didn't get that. And then last week, I was sitting with the builders who are constructing our new home, and the coordinator was telling his employees about Laura. And that was like the first time in my life that I heard somebody else referring to the sun as Laura. And the boys, I'm saying boys, they were young men, didn't know that Laura name, so he explained and he said, you have the earth, Gaia, and you have the moon, Luna, and then the sun is called Laura. I never knew that. And I asked my mom later in the family chat, so how did you know this about Laura and her name? And she said, I don't know. I think it's just intuition. And that really baffled me. How can you know by intuition that the sun is called Laura? And at the same time, I knew she was telling the truth. My mom would also refer to Pachamama in days when nobody talked about Pachamama. And of course, we've been talking as humanity for ages about it, but still, she had never been to South America. I didn't see her reading books or listening to any specific music or people that would refer to the Pachamama. And then I was thinking about how my mother has an intuition that many of us are lacking, have forgotten, or can just not find back, make connection with. So for her it was always there. She could just pick it up and work with it if she had the tools, if she had known. But unfortunately she didn't know. And then yesterday I decided to record a message for her because she was not feeling well, and in the past she has had to deal with depression, and she's taking medication for that. And now that she wasn't feeling well, she was afraid, she was panicking that she was going back into that dark time of the depression. And I thought, no, you're not having a depression, you're going through some dark nights of the soul, as I had just learned from my teacher, Rebecca Campbell. So recording the message, I really pondered my words because I had never spoken to her in the way I was doing. And I didn't know if she was gonna understand what I was talking about, because I was using words I'm sure she hasn't heard. And I sent the message and I was like, okay, now what? What's gonna happen? Is she gonna listen to it? Is she gonna listen through it until the end? And I just went about my day, didn't think too much about it. And then she sent this message. I listened to your voice message and it clicked in my head. I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I knew my mother is speaking the language of the Great Mother. She knew about Luna and Laura and Gaia, but she knows so much more. And I decided that we would be unlocking this together. How challenging this will be, because the whole conversation, the language we will be using is going to change. And that what my mom usually does is keep asking these questions and going into the mind space that always triggers me or annoys me. And I know that if we are going to speak the new language, it will be different. She won't be asking these questions. It won't be necessary. Like, how do you know that? And who says this? And what does Rebecca really mean by that? And, all these questions to verify if we're talking the truth, which is actually a big bucket of BS. If we know, we know. And even if some of the things we're exploring seem later not to be right, then who cares? We've been exploring, we've not been standing and just letting life flow over us. We won't be going into the depression she fears so much. There will be flow. So I'm excited to know and to learn from her. I thought when I started recording that the roles were reversed and that I would be her teacher or her guide, whatever you want to call it. And that is something I had resisted for a long time. I was angry with her that she didn't take up that role for me and that I was lost for so many years. And that I didn't have a wise woman in front of me when I need it. And now I know that she, even at her age and after her entire life living unknowingly, that she has the intuition and the language and the body knowledge to just step into who she really is. What the moon and the sun and the earth are teaching us. She just has to pull up her arm and pick the fruits from the tree. She has been looking at the tree and not daring to pick the fruit.